Welcome back to Tap Tempo with me, Matt Lang. This past weekend, I was in New York, played at Output. That was a good time. Then played in Montreal the next night, and that was also a good time. And bizarrely, there were also a bunch of pro skaters staying at my hotel. There was some big DC block party skateboard competition, so that was kind of cool just to see all those guys out there, especially considering I'm used to seeing them here in LA. So it was a good weekend, a lot of travel. I'm exhausted, to be totally honest, but the show must go on. This week, I will be at the different block party. This is the block party in London, Ontario, and that's on Friday. I'm headlining the Red Bull stage, and then I'm also playing at the after party that same night. And then the next night, I'm in Chicago at Soundbar, and that is the Dolby Atmos Soundbar show. And Atmos, for those of you who don't know about it, it's basically the most immersive surround sound out there. I had the pleasure of playing in, UK London last summer, and at the time, Ministry of Sound was the only club in the world that had an Atmos system. And you live in the music. It's amazing. It's made for cinema, and usually it's up to about 128 discrete channels, which means there are speakers around you, above you, every direction. You can send sound everywhere. And from a musician and a producer standpoint, it's really exciting to hear music in that way. So I get to DJ in Atmos at Soundbar this weekend. So if you're in Chicago, you should definitely come check that out. It's pretty different, and it changes you. It really makes you want to hear music only in that way. And unfortunately, the reality is that we cannot, because we would also need 128 speakers in our room. However, if you're in Chicago, you can go hear it yourself. So go do that. This brings me back to this weekend. I flew in a day early, and I decided to catch up with Andrew Bayer. Stayed with him for a night, and we recorded this little ditty. And I would assume most listeners of this show know who Andrew is, and he's a dear friend, and I've known him for a decade. And he was very gracious, both him and Alan letting me stay there, cooking for me. We had awesome steak, and just a really great night of honestly just drinking a bunch of beer and catching up with each other. So the next morning, sans beer, we drank the La Croix water, as they say, and we recorded this. And we talk a lot about his next album, what he's been doing for the past 3 years, working with Above and Beyond. He's just a lovely person, and it's really a pleasure to have him here. So here is my chat with Andrew Bayer. So I've had the pleasure of being with you in your studio for the past day. Mm-hmm. And listening, fortunately, you played me a lot of the new material you're working on. And it's really, first of all, it's great, but
thank you.
It's really fascinating to watch the progression of how you've evolved in the past, really, 4 years. That sound about right?
Mm-hmm.
And going from your last album, where you had a lot of down tempo, it was kind of hip hop influenced and very sampling based, to then really becoming you're one of the most prominent names in trance music. Mm-hmm. And now the new stuff you're doing is kind of coming full circle and going back more towards songwriting, more halftime tempos. What's the thought process behind that?
So it was interesting because I think it's been about 3 years since I put out my last record, for my last full-length record. And that was each thing that I do, I try to have a kind of like a sonic departure from what the last thing I did was, because if you just keep on doing the same thing, it's boring, you know?
Yeah.
And with that record, I was teaching myself how to sample, because I was really into sample-based music, and I thought, I'm going to just sample people that inspire me and singer-songwriters that I thought were really interesting, and because that was my other passion at the same time. I've always been really into singer-songwriter music.
Yeah.
And so with this record, I thought, because I'd spent a lot of time working with Above and Beyond and, a couple bands here and there, writing songs and becoming, focusing more on the songwriting aspect, I thought, why don't I get some of the people that I was sampling on my last record and actually just write songs with them and see how that works. And it was amazing, because it kind of kickstarted this album writing phase, which has been ongoing for a while. You know, I've been writing this album for a couple of years now. But it's been like a full circle kind of like religious experience. And it sounds ridiculous to say that, but it's been so comforting knowing that it's, again, something new territory, but sonically is definitely coming back to some of my album roots, you know?
Right.
I mean, it's definitely a little bit calculated in terms of the tempo. Like you were saying, you know, there's a lot of halftime stuff, but the idea is so that we could take it into, you know, the club kind of performance aspect, and it can still translate, you know, but I mean, I don't think you'll have any of that kind of clubby sound on the record, which is kind of my comfort zone, you know?
Sure.
So it fits kind of both briefs in a way, but is so new for me because it's like every track has vocals on it, you know?
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's so exciting. So yeah, it's great. It's like full circle, but at the same time, it's like a step forward, I think, you know?
Then how have you found balancing that with, because your obligations certainly in the dance music world, I mean, those are pretty heavy between the time you spend working with Above and Beyond and then your own club career.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I find it really difficult because sometimes I've been working on the Above and Beyond record, and then you know, they're like, we've got ABGT 250 coming up, which is another like landmark show. So we've got lots of material to prepare. And, I think there was, when I was writing some stuff with Allison May, a couple months ago. I was like, I need to put out maybe a club track.
Yeah, sure.
Cause it's just like, you know, you almost like forget that, you know, I'm doing all these gigs and stuff, and I'm playing a lot of new territories this summer. So, you know, I didn't really realize, I need to actually put some music out in the meantime. So we've been working on this club track that could potentially maybe go on the album in a different format, but
sure.
But yeah, it was kind of one of those like, oh shit, you know, you kind of forget that you need to keep that momentum going, because if you're playing new markets, you put together, you know, you want to play them a bunch of stuff they've never heard before, which is like all that kind of back catalog at this point.
Right.
And it was just kind of like, oh shit, I need to put something out.
Yeah.
So that's what, we're going to have something coming out in the fall. It'll be kind of like my first vocal track in a while. And it's also, you know, with a collaborator that we're working on the record with. So it's kind of like nice like introduction.
It's cohesive.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And then there was definitely like a really strong split, because after the last album, and I guess there wasn't really a touring cycle for that. It wasn't really that kind of album.
No.
But then you transitioned really quickly into doing, you know, really big room trance. And that's almost, from a listener's perspective, it was almost like that's what you were exclusively doing for.
Right. Well, it was kind of fun because with that as well, like big room trance was what I grew up on. Yeah. And that was how I got into dance music. And, you know, I was putting out records as Signal Runners. I think when we met still.
Yeah, you're still doing some of that. Yeah.
And that was always kind of big room, but with like some progressive, you know, roots. And so when I did go back to that sound, because I started doing some more DJ gigs and realized that some of my proggier stuff, it worked really great for like an opening warm-up set, but for like a headline set, it just didn't feel right with, especially the fan base that was kind of blossoming in the States. Like the Injuna scene wasn't really as big, kind of, especially was Above and Beyond always had a big following, but the Injuna kind of brand only really started blowing up in the last few years. I mean, obviously with the whole kind of like EDM,
that bubble,
you know, whatever, blossoming, if you want to call it that.
Right.
So once that started getting bigger, I thought, how can I make big room music that still retains like musicality? Because a lot of people at that time, like when I started doing it, I mean, like, I'm not going to name names, but like they were big names doing stuff and like grooves that I actually really liked, because they were good. Some of it was kind of going back in that electro direction, which when we met, like we were super into, and kind of some like kind of techno-y kind of influences on the groove front. And then the music was just fucking terrible. Yeah. Like it sounded like shit that I would have done in Fruity Loops when I was like 9 years old, like bashing on on a fucking piano preset. And it was just like, it was so soulless at that point. And I felt like for me, it was kind of like a personal challenge to bring like emotional kind of like evocative music in that the confines of which you could work, which was like the breakdown. And then,
of course.
So that was like a fun challenge. And I still am trying to kind of do that a bit with my more big room stuff. It's like, like this vocal track that I'm working on with Allie is like, it's a really like touching, but yet kind of strong, like female empowerment kind of vibe with the back end of the lyrics, and has like glockenspiel, and it's like very kind of like belly, and it sounds like something that if you chopped out that breakdown, it would be something on my last record, but with the full song.
Right.
So I was still trying to do that. Like I'm always very conscious about that when I work on big room stuff, just because it feels like there was definitely a period of time when there was just no soul whatsoever in a lot of the stuff that people were getting into, and it was all about the drop. And I was like, well, how can we do that, but then retain some musical integrity?
Well, that's always, going to separate you from the rest of the pack too, just because, I mean, you are a very skilled and classically trained musician.
Right.
So,
I mean, it's just something that for me, it just kind of goes without saying,
Yeah.
Music is like, it's music should be musical. And then obviously there's music for form and function and stuff like that, which is great. But at the end of the day, I'm always going to return to like writing real music.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Do you find yourself listening to a lot of club music?
Oh, no. No.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the last time I was like really into that was like maybe in college.
Yeah.
Like 10 years ago, like when we were in college, I'd still listen to the occasional, like essential mix and stuff like that.
Right.
And then I became so much more focused on other people's like more kind of like widescreen bodies of work, like albums and and then it just, from that point, it kind of took over, just because there aren't a lot of really cohesive dance albums these days.
No.
It feels like it's really rare to kind of stumble upon one. And certainly on the clubbier side, it's almost like non-existent.
No, it's all singles.
Yeah. So, and for me, it's like when I get into a new artist, like I want to devour like a meaty piece of work. I don't want to just sit there and listen to a 5-minute track that's just, and then 2 minutes of it is mix in, mix out.
Right. Well, and you want to be able to see that they actually are multidimensional.
Yeah, exactly. It's like and also it's just it's in a way you crave more of it if you like it.
Oh yeah. Of course.
So.
Yeah, I wonder if that's going to eventually shift back. Because I definitely think, if, like we just had in the car earlier, when you go listen to like Sasha's Involver 2, that is a cohesive whole.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a statement in that body of work, even though it's essentially just, it's a whole compilation of remixes.
Right.
In a way, it all feels Sasha.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
There is such a pure sonic identity to that.
Yeah, and for me, what I love about that is the seamlessness and the cohesiveness of it. It feels like kind of one just long track,
Yeah.
And that and there's definitely different colors and different vibes throughout the whole thing, but yeah, it does feel like a unified body of work. It feels like it's like an old school approach to writing a record,
Yeah.
Even though it's like you said, it's a bunch of remixes, it does feel like very much him.
Yeah.
As the originator,
I think that's always been great about him too.
Oh, he's amazing.
I mean, no matter what he touches, it comes out Sasha.
Right. I mean, the thing is, as well, as like, I also just actively kind of don't really seek out a bunch, like mostly dance music. I just tend to listen to a lot of like singer-songwriters and the occasional like, random electronica. Like I'll go on like, some review websites and see what people are listening to. Generally I don't like it that much.
Yeah, neither do I.
But every once in a while I get really surprised, and then I'll kind of go and get really into them. But yeah, it's mostly just singer-songwriters these days. And that's why I think I'm so into writing songs now.
Me too.
Yeah.
Singer-songwriter-wise, who are you into?
I mean, I'm obsessed with kind of the obvious Sufjan Stevens, Bon Iver, it's just, they're my absolute jam.
Yeah.
I can listen to either their back catalog. You can put an album on random. I will just sit there and listen to the whole thing. And it's, I'll be glued to my seat. It's just, they're just so good. And Allison May, I mean, she is absurd. We went to Berkeley together, and she every time she puts a record together, I'm just blown away by, again, like the cohesiveness, the songwriting, the storytelling.
Yeah.
And she's evolved so much as an artist. Like, I mean, when she went to Berkeley as a drum principal, when we were...
She was a drum principal?
Yeah, dude. She was a drum principal, and then she just picked up an acoustic guitar and started, like, teaching herself how to play in, like, a practice room, and was, like, singing us little, like, songs that she was writing.
Yeah.
And we were like, yo, you're fucking good at this. So then she switched to do the songwriting program.
No kidding.
Yeah. And she just, like, we watched her evolve from someone who did not know how to play a guitar to that after she left Berkeley. And now she's, I think she's brilliant, It's amazing how she's clearly someone with innate talent. Was kind of like concealed, and then she with her determination, she brought it up.
Right.
It's incredible.
Just needed the right voice. That's amazing. I haven't seen her in a long time.
She's doing awesome.
Portland?
Yeah, she's in Portland still.
Okay.
And she was just texted me with all the wildfires going on. She was like,
that's right.
I couldn't go outside. My car's covered in ash. I was
like,
fuck.
Yeah, actually, we had that this past weekend.
Right.
Because we have all the fires in, like,
that's crazy.
North of Burbank.
Yeah, you guys are getting the fires. We're getting the hurricanes. I mean, it's...
Yeah.
I think someone's angry at the world right now. But...
Yeah, I wonder why.
Yeah. We'll leave that for another day.
I know, right?
You can guess what I think.
Yeah, well, shocker.
Anyways.
Oh, staring across from me right now, you've got this lovely new modular synth. So what's you dove in hard.
I went in, this is how I do things. I dive in head first, and with this one, smash my face on the concrete, because, like, it is so amazing. I love it, but I haven't had time, like I was telling you, I haven't had time to explore it at all. Like, I have no idea what most things do, which is kind of part of the charm, which is amazing. Like, I love being completely intimidated by a piece of equipment. It's like, it makes it...
Yeah.
It is, like, I mean, even looking at it is intimidating. But at the same time, like, I'm really looking forward to when I kind of clear my schedule and I can, like, write from the ground up, like, modular pieces and stuff, just because it's been so inspiring the few times that I've had, some actual proper time to have a fiddle with it.
Right.
It makes your brain work in a completely different way.
Yeah.
Compositionally, sonically, I mean, everything about it's pretty amazing.
It's a whole new kind of instrument.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, I mean, like you said, I dove in really pretty head first. So the few times that I've, dedicated a couple hours to really figuring out how shit works with it, I just limit myself, because I really should have just gone smaller.
I know. I kind of love it. Most people start, with, like, a very small case.
Yeah.
And instead, you just got a gigantic one, and it's all full.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But so what I'll do is I'll pretend like I have, 60 HP, and, like, how am I gonna figure out, like, how it works, really focus on certain modules. I'm like, right, today's a DPO day.
Right.
Let me explore this wacky fucking alien creature, which is kind of the way that I think of it.
Yeah.
It's awesome though. I mean, I'm really loving it. I can't wait to, like I said, just start from the ground up with it.
Yeah. I gotta show you kick drums on the DPO.
Oh yes.
Because,
yes, please.
Yeah, I'll do that before I leave, because you have maths and you have the DPO. And that's magic.
It's ridiculous.
Right there. It's like my favorite kicks I've ever made.
So sick.
To this day, it's just straight up maths, DPO, and a VCA. And the VCA could, change. I mean, that has some effect, but it's all about maths and the DPO.
It's awesome. So amazing. That company is so dope. I mean, I want an O-Coast just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Because it looks so cool.
Yeah,
and,
you'd like the no-coast. Because, you can just play with it. I mean, it's very immediate.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, they're great guys.
Really cool.
What else are you liking in there?
I've, like we were talking about, that Braids is so ridiculous. Yeah. It's the deepest, like, I think, piece of electronic equipment I own. It's just so deep. Yeah. There's so much to get into. It is such a beautifully wild yet mean and disgusting sounding thing. I love it. And I'm just scratching the surface of it,
Right.
Clouds, of course,
it's magic.
Is amazing. I've just been, loving that quantizer, like we were talking, the Tip Top Audio one is so dope. Obviously the Schwayman oscillator that Matt recommended for me, and I spent 5 months trolling eBay for it.
I waited 2 years for mine.
I know I got lucky and I overpaid for it, but I was like, fuck it, you know?
Yeah, no, sometimes you need it.
But it is so good. I mean, those oscillators sound... It was funny because people there was some, I can't remember where I was reading it. They're like, oh yeah, it is nearly identical to the Voyager. I think it sounds way better than the Voyager.
I don't think it sounds anything like a Moog.
Right? I don't understand that. But
no, I mean, you got to get the filter too.
Yeah.
Because when I worked for Brian 10 years ago, he had a Schwayman S1.
Right. I remember that.
And that was the first time I'd ever used anything like that, and I just couldn't get over it was so like clinically flat or fat, I should say, and it almost felt like it was almost mid-scooped sometimes, like compared to a Roland or a Moog or something like that. And ultimately, the VCO2, that's two of the oscillators from the S1.
Right.
And then the filter, you want to get the MMF1 because that's the filter from the S1.
I've been looking, and there's none of them are coming on the market.
They're hard. Man, it's great. It's really great. I mean, you still have a shit ton of analog synths around here also. I mean,
I do. Yeah. And actually this is only about half of them. I've got a bunch of shit in storage upstairs just because I'm trying to do a little bit of a purge. Like I realized with the modular, it's like, this is enough for me to focus on for a while. So I'm just kind of keeping the stuff that I love. Like my Voyagers upstairs, I just frankly I like the Sub 37 a lot better,
really?
Which is crazy. Yeah, it's a very different beast.
Yeah,
but it's just super. It's so deep for what it is. There's a lot more menu diving and stuff to have to do, but I really get on with it well.
Right.
And then we've got my Monopoly, which is great. It's the second one that I've had.
Yep.
And the keys are fucked too, as you can tell. Yeah. But yeah, that's that I had one in that I had bought when I was living in England, and it had a really weird like MIDI, because they don't have MIDI innately, and someone had like upgraded it with some MIDI kit.
Yep.
And every time I was playing it, it's like the oscillators felt sloppy, and I had did some reading, and there's some way that you could trigger the oscillators from different MIDI channels with that MIDI kit. And I think whatever they did was dodgy, because like I was just like, it just sounds sloppy, and everyone was like, no, I think you're just going insane.
Yeah.
And I had too much wine one night and saw this pop up on Reverb, and I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna prove everyone wrong.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy this fucking one and see if it sounds sloppy. It doesn't. It sounds amazing. But
I only just got HipToReverb a month ago.
Yeah,
I'm so far behind.
So bad.
Oh my god.
It's so bad because it makes it so much easier. Like it's instead of having to deal with like eBay shit, it's just God, you just sign in, boom, buy, and it comes in like 2 days.
I know. It's
terrible.
It's really terrible. It's wonderful, but they have nice articles up there too.
Yeah, I know. And then you get their emails that are like, oh, 20% off analog gear, and there's like a giant sale, and it's just like, fuck my life.
Yeah, it's dangerous. I nerd out so hard just reading the articles about like, here are the 15 like top selling delay pedals of 2016.
Right. And then there's links to go buy them.
Right. And it's always like, I need all of these, obviously, and I don't get all of them. I rarely get one, but
right.
I mean, oh man, I saw this thing. There's this delay. It's called, I think, like the Evil Twin Duplicator or something.
Sounds like some shit you'd like.
Yeah. I'm not. It's called the Duplicator. I know I'm not saying the company name correctly, but it's just this green analog delay pedal, and it's pretty big. But it's got Calvin and Hobbes painted on it. And yeah, that was. And I know, like, I posted about it, like, does anyone know where I can find one of these? And, you know, of course, like, the first response I get is, I can just paint that for you. That's not the point.
Yeah, right.
You know, like, yes, I know, but I want the thing.
That's what I love about a lot of these companies. They're like, you know, people that they're painting a Calvin Hobbes on a pedal, and you know, like remember when I was opening all my modules, like it was, first of all, it was like Christmas on crack, but then like all the mutable things coming with these little like totemy things, and it's so cool that they put in that extra effort to.
Oh my god, I know.
To design their stuff in the way that they do, and it's it has so much soul and personality. It feels like you're, you know, getting to know the people that are doing them. And I mean, not to rag on, these modern synth companies and stuff, but there's definitely a hell of a lot less of that going on,
Yeah, sure.
It feels like you're using them in a more functional basis,
Yeah.
but still useful. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, definitely. It's a different ballpark, and that's why it's nice to have both.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I mean, it's like the way you play piano is going to be different than the way you touch a synth.
Oh, for sure.
And I mean, you don't have any guitars, right? No.
I have one that I bought to teach myself how to play, like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't even know where it is.
Right. Fair.
And I was thinking I really want to pick it up again. I think after this record, it's on like a bucket list. I want to learn how to play guitar and then do like a post rock record.
Really?
Yeah, like I would love to do that. I don't know when. That's just somewhere out there in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another goal of mine.
That's awesome.
Just because, like, I mean, a lot of that stuff is just, quite simple guitar lines through just like a shit ton of reverb, and it feels like something that could be accessible, but I need to put in the effort to learn how to play the guitar. So,
well, fortunately, you don't need to play it very well.
Right, exactly. I mean, I have guitar on my album that I've recorded, like little things, just multi-tracked, and they're like the most simple things, but I'm just like,
but it sounds so good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, I mean, real instruments, man. Every time.
I know.
It's like, I just love it when you take an acoustic instrument of some kind and then you process it in, a modern digital way where you get the best of both worlds, and it's so evocative.
Yeah, that's next on my list too, is I want to get some mics for my piano and just bring my laptop upstairs, or I could probably even fucking pipe it down here some way, actually, because it's just above that column.
You could,
but then I'd have to be running up and down.
Yeah.
So that
and it's kind of nice to separate yourself, where you just take your mobile rig up there, and then you're just in that space, as opposed to thinking about what's going back and forth.
I'm just trying to invent more house projects for myself.
Yeah.
This is the problem. As I'm like, wait, no, I could actually just modify the floors, which we just redone, and the whole studio, by just drilling another hole and then getting it. It's just it's a disease.
I said this last night, but yeah, you are the most domesticated, friend of my age that I have.
It's absurd. It's in the same way that when I did with the modular. It's like with the house, let's just dive in head first and go insane.
Yeah,
I don't know why I do this to myself. It's really like
you like projects.
Yeah, I do like projects. It's great. I mean, it's sometimes if I was in a rut for a while because I felt like I wasn't learning anything. Kind of musically and just personally, professionally, and I don't know. It feels like when you do take on a project like that, regardless of what aspect it is in your life, like it gives you more kind of drive and motivation to figure out what then. Once you get your toes wet, you're like, wait, I can do this. Like you've been procrastinating doing something. Then it kind of, once you've done that, it's like it pushes you springboard into the next thing.
Yep.
And it could be, and for me, it's like I have, all of my different aspects of my life all kind of convolve into one thing, really, which is me. each one of those things are if I'm just finishing up a house project, I'm kind of like eager to figure out what the next thing that I want to do musically, and then once the musical thing kind of arcs and is getting ready to completion, I'm probably going to want to do another house thing at some point, and it's just like it's like a chain. A chain reaction, so to speak, of just things to push yourself and to keep on learning. And unfortunately, all these things are really expensive.
Right. So, well, this is why you need some more club hits.
Yeah, right.
You can go tour a bit and then put in a new kitchen again.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck my life.
No, that's amazing though. Like as someone who's on the other side, it's amazing to see you so happy, and you're married, you have a house.
I know, it's great.
It's so foreign, and
it's bizarre. Now we're starting to think about kids, and I'm just like, that's a project in and of itself.
Right.
So yeah, it's just it's crazy. Just feels like you want to. With the amount of kind of stuff that's happened in my personal life, it just makes me feel like you want to make the most of the time that you have while you're here, and I sometimes overindulge, and so to speak, in different ways.
Well, I don't.
But It's
within reason. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, exactly.
I think you should enjoy it.
My fucking ass needs to go to the gym. I'll tell you what.
And that's not enjoyable.
No, I know.
No.
I kind of really weirdly enjoy lifting weights. Like, I hate doing cardio and sitting there for like 45 minutes. And
yeah, that sucks.
My usual routine is to like watch HGTV, but now that I've seen every single episode of everything they have on there, it's just like really dry. I'm just like sitting there running and like hating secretly on whatever couple is like fighting over buying some house on HGTV. Right. And somehow lifting weights is like more satisfying because there's such a direct result. When you go home, you feel like, you know?
Yeah, you can feel it like pumping through your veins.
Yeah, but then the opposite, whenever I do cardio, I feel so energized afterwards. When I lift weights, I get so tired because I'm also just not used to it. It's been a few years, so I need to get my ass back to the gym.
Well, I think you just have to find the activity, you know, that speaks to you.
Yeah, and for me, it's definitely like lifting. And when I lived in Brooklyn, like 4 years ago, we had a gym right across the street, and so I would just go there after the studio, lift, eat, and then go to sleep, and it was just like that was my routine. I loved it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's also finding a routine with touring life and construction life, album writing life, and it's tough, you know.
It's really hard. Yeah, I mean, I think the only way almost to kind of stay sane is to have a routine.
Yeah, for sure. And like being able to have the discipline to stick to that.
Yeah.
When you're touring, when you come back, you're exhausted. Mm-hmm. Let's say you had a shitty weekend, or let's say you had a great weekend and you overdid it, and you come back, it's like, it's the first thing I want to do, and probably not wake up and go to the gym on the Monday morning.
No. And I don't think you should. I think, you know, a lot of the times you need that one day to decompress.
Yeah, we were talking about that. Like, honestly, that day is crucial.
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes if I'm lucky, I can combine like an admin day and just kind of like chill with like my coffee and a laptop and just kind of like catch up on shit.
Yeah.
But some days I can't even do that. So I won't even look at my phone for a day. And you know, like my mom's calling, she's like, "Are you okay?" And it's like, no, I need to put my head in the sand for an entire day
on the couch with like Netflix on.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Blinds closed.
Totally. Like, yeah,
dog or cat in bed.
Yeah. Oh my God. I know. I've been so tempted just to crawl into bed at like 3 PM recently.
I know. I do it all the time. I have to. Sometimes when you get back from like a rough weekend, it's like lots of flights. I mean, like I'm still, you can hear it probably from this. Like I still have like a sinus infection from the flights that I did in August. Yeah. And I mean, it's just like, I think right when we got back from Delaware, because we had to pick up the dog and then get back here, and add another 2-day journey on the back end of my last like month from hell traveling. Yeah. I collapsed into bed. I was just like, because I hadn't been in my own bed for over a month, and I was like, I was like, this is the best. Right. I think I watched like a marathon of Friends on Netflix with like my eyes closed. Right. Like, I wasn't even watching it. Like I knew what was happening anyways. I was just like, I'm in bliss, you know. Oh my God. Yeah. But yeah, those days are important. You have to have those. You need it in order to survive this kind of career that we're doing. It's just another, like before we were touring this much, you didn't need it as much. Like living in the studio was just kind of what we did 24/7. Basically, it was both work, fun, and a hobby all at the same time. But I mean now, well, and also in a way, then you wanted to go out to a club recreationally. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, when we first started hanging out in DC, we would go almost like every weekend. Every weekend, like to like Ibiza. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it's just now it feels like, I mean, it's like work, you know. Yeah, I just don't do it. I go to see friends, and it's more of like it's much more like a social thing, because like otherwise, if I'm not playing or if a friend isn't playing, well, why would you? Yeah, it's just you're around it so much as it is. Exactly. It's just it's work now. Yeah. No, it changes the relationship. For sure. I mean, the same way. I mean, just having to make money by creating music, changes your relationship with that too. Absolutely, we were talking about that last night too. It was just like if it becomes your primary source of income, does that change your creativity and like? I mean, how do you feel about that? It does. Yeah. Because you're going to take on projects there are two ways you can handle it. You can do like client work to kind of pay the bills, so you can do your
art, in quotations, without any financial responsibility. Or what a lot of people do, and, we see it, especially in this industry a ton, they just keep retailoring their own personal music to fit whatever's in vogue.
Right.
And
I mean, I do that a bit with my club music,
Certainly.
Like I really try to, like, if you play a breakdown of some, a track I've done, like one of my favorite ones that I did, I think it was last year, was Celestial. That's like this, like, modal kind of piano-y thing, and it goes into like a really kind of clunky sounding piano riff that with like silence, it's just literally like a solo piano top line. And it's funny because when you play that, some places it gets a great response, and some places, especially like festivals, and you have like tent bleed going on. You have this one little solo piano line, and you hear some like fucking like dubstep happening like in one stage over or something.
Of course. No, you're screwed.
I'm like, oh God, please guys, can you just filter it down for a second?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like if you put that snippet of music in with, my first album, even, it still doesn't, I don't think it feels foreign. And I don't think it ever will, because it's me. I'm a musician, and like we were saying, you're always you're going to be in everything you do.
Yeah. I mean, that's unavoidable.
Right.
But yeah, it does. I don't know. I guess the way, you've kind of done it is really just, you really like like you say, you dive headfirst into anything you do. And I think you kind of just did that also for the club side also.
Yeah.
Because you didn't put out anything really that was not club music for...
No, I went straight from like the clubby stuff I was doing was like the kind of a slightly slower tempo, more progressive.
Yeah.
Which I still play out. Like, and that stuff, I love doing that. If I'm playing like a longer set, the first 30 minutes of that stuff will be some like back catalog from that era.
Right.
But yeah, no, when I swerved, I definitely felt like the backlash initially from like my fan base. And
did you?
From people on a junior? Yeah, it was just because,
I would have thought that's what they always wanted you to do.
Well, it's interesting because I think people like familiarity. So when they are into an artist, they kind of want them to keep on always doing the same thing.
Yeah, they want the same song. Yeah, of course.
And for me, I understand that a bit, but at the same time, I try to always really, if I'm really into an artist, I want to respect where they're going, their projection of their kind of path. I mean, a great example is Bon Iver. You listen to his 3 full lengths; they're so you can see the progression,
absolutely,
and they're so different from each other. And like every time he releases a full length record, his whole fan base they freak out. They get like super mad.
Yeah.
And then they all kind of like chill out and realize, oh wait, no, it's still Bon Iver. And then they're like, oh wait, it's actually amazing.
Right, yeah.
And I'm not saying that because with the stuff that I do, there's clearly a big kind of like divide in genre.
Yeah.
Even though I hope that my musical voice, like I was saying, comes through in each of those things. There still is like a little bit of a divide there with between those subsects of, dance music. So I mean, there was definitely like a bit of backlash, and then the same with like with Above and Beyond. When I started working with them, I really saw them kind of, they were still doing that kind of what people now dub as uplifting trance, which doesn't make sense as a term. Uplifting, what like that to me, that whole idea of calling your music uplifting when in reality you're just talking about tempo, drives me insane.
Right.
But anyways, that's what they call it. So whatever, I'll be respectful. So they were dubbed, I guess, as doing uplifting trance. And when I started working with them, we were like we were just slowing down tempos a little bit. And I remember even Sun and Moon was slightly controversial because it was 134 BPM. Which still to me is like nosebleed fast, for dance music. But I mean, like that is now considered, one of Above and Beyond's like most successful singles to this date. But when we did it, it was like this is fucking Trouse, and if you play it now to trance fans, that's like their core, what they think trance is. That's like, that's super. That's the core of Above and Beyond. But at the time, it was the opposite. We put that out, and people were like, their core fan base were like slamming it.
Right. This isn't Alone Tonight. What is this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think on that one we had Thing Called Love, and there were like 4 different mixes of it at least. The one on the album was like a 138 kind of what people would call uplifting mix. But the guys were kind of slowing their tempo down, so we did like a slower club mix of it, and that was the one that really took off. And And for us, it was exciting because it was something new, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's like what we were saying. It's just like that pursuit of kind of challenging yourself, giving yourself some new territory to get excited about is so important. And it's definitely fought, or you find resistance with with your fan base when you do it. But what I would ask is always to, people to have an open mind to kind of process new things.
They need to understand that you're not a jukebox.
Right.
You are, before you even being an artist, you're a human being.
Yeah.
And you're not the same human being you were 5 years ago.
Exactly.
And then how could you ever expect you to create the same kind of art you were making 5 years ago?
Right.
Given, like, usually what inspires art is, boiled down life experiences.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in 5 years, the experiences that you've had are, of course, drastically different than whatever they are. So that's going to, of course, seep its way into your music. It's going to change how you create, what you want to hear, what you want to express. I think it's tough because, you do want to make a fan base happy to a degree.
For sure.
But ideally, you just want to do it on your own terms, where it's like, I'm going to do whatever I want and you're going to like it. And that's, that's not real.
That's kind of what my inner approach, though, is. It's like I've always thought of myself as a selfish musician, because I make music for myself, and I make kind of what I would want to hear if I was in that environment, or if I'm at home listening to something. That's why I think like there's a definite divide of when I do music for home listening or music for club listening or whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel it's just like, it's kind of like, I think my favorite musicians are a bit self-indulgent,
Yeah, mine certainly are.
Yeah.
I think you need that. I think, you need that yin to the yang of a lot of music coming out that is so purely cynical in how it's crafted to be heard a certain way that you need something to just balance it out.
Right, for sure.
It's because, I think most of what we hear these days is the opposite.
Yeah, and then the other thing too is like you get a lot of people, I think, that are probably new to the dance music scene, and they're kind of so hungry and they're devouring it all.
Yeah.
And what they'll do is they'll kind of, and I was like that when I was younger. I was like exclusively only listening to dance music, but like actually, I think the best artists in dance music are probably using non-dance music as their like musical reference points and what they're pulling in, because like we were saying, it's like a format that you can kind of adhere to, and then it's what you can make the most of by bringing in other shit into dance music, because that's when it really becomes like magical and interesting. I was watching this thing about Deadmau5 talking about how he was like, how silly it is that we're all using the same fucking drum pattern, you know, which is totally true. It's it's like that you've got your kicks. They're all for the most part going to be
every quarter note.
Every quarter note, and then you put your claps on 2 and 4, and you got your offbeat hi hat if you want or whatever. But it's obviously that's kind of the format for how people move their bodies in dance music. But it's bringing that other stuff, and if you're only kind of using. And I think this is kind of what happened a lot with the EDM bubble bursting in the States. You had these people coming in, and they would only really reference other dance music, as opposed to like, listening to shit outside of there and bringing those the musicality from other genres into dance music. And that's where, like I was saying, that's like where the magic really happens, and you have the ability to do it. It's just you have to work your way around the confines of, this is your drum groove that everyone's going to be dancing to, or there's an arrangement thing that you kind of realize you can't do a 10-minute long breakdown because people will fall asleep. There's things that you have to work around, but there still is enough of a canvas to make something interesting.
I think so. I think the thing that made it so hard too was because that bubble, it exploded so rapidly that, similar to really anything in the music industry, there wasn't a lot of room for risk taking.
No.
Everything, at least certainly what labels were pushing, was that they wanted everything to be really homogenous because it was selling. It was selling,
and I think because, like I was saying, these kids that were just getting into it, they just only wanted to hear the same thing.
Right.
They weren't listening to any other kind of music at all.
No. And it's all forms of dance music. It's not just trance, house, dubstep.
Yeah.
All of it. It's all... A lot of it is very incestuous sonically.
Right.
And it's nice... I mean, I think that's what's great about your work. You know, you hear the musicianship and the craft behind that.
Thank you.
And that is, you know, what sets you apart. But it's hard also because, I mean, do you ever find, because, you know, in a way you are an outlier, that the reaction that you get, I guess you don't, from a record label side, you won't, because, I mean, you're so ingrained in the Anjuna family at this point that, you know, you're in a unique position there. But maybe even from DJs and artists, fan base, that because what you do is a little bit outside the norm, and not just the backlash from, you know, changing genres, but even when you put out something that's a little bit more experimental, I suppose, do you have a hard time getting it played often? Is there a backlash to that? Yeah,
I mean, I think that, especially with the Anjuna like niche of like what we're doing, it certainly does feel slightly different to the rest of the kind of trance, you know, world, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, I think recently in trance as well, it does feel like people have chilled out a little bit, and there's not so much of this big divide between the, you know, the faster tempo people and the slower tempo people. And I don't know if it's just took some time for people to get comfortable with it. But it certainly does feel less like there's less, you know, I guess of a rift there. And frankly, maybe because there's that faster tempo trance stuff has a massive following. It's like this big resurgence, and they have like their own festivals and stuff like that, which is awesome. And maybe the slower tempo stuff is kind of chilled out, because obviously that got a big bump from the EDM scene.
Right.
But like,
I guess they're less competitive now. Yeah,
it does feel like there's less kind of like competition going on, and also maybe I'm just not paying attention to it as much, because I used to like, you know, always be saying, "Oh, where's my music getting played? And who's playing it?" And frankly, now I don't give a fuck. You know, if people play it, awesome, that's great. But I'm making it for me to play. Yeah. So it doesn't. I don't really mind if, like, I frankly, when I get like a press pack thing or whatever, that's like, oh, here's all the key DJs that are supporting, I don't even look at it now.
Really?
It's just it's music that I make for either myself to play out, or for people to, my fan base, listen to, or, you know, for them to listen to at home. I'm not really concerned with that aspect of it. You know,
that makes it easy.
And I used to be, definitely, you know, because I felt like it was like a gauge on how successful a track was going to be, and now it feels just a little less important. It feels like, especially because I think one of the good things that came from the like EDM explosion was people go to shows to hear your music. Yes, which is awesome, because I frankly, that's the way that I always, when I would see a DJ, like I remember when we were in, you know, Ibiza and in DC, and I saw Eric Pritz there a couple times. Yeah. He plays a fucking set start to finish of his music with maybe like one or two like bootlegs or something. And it made the night, so it was just like this really big cohesive thing. Of course. And it's like seeing a band, you know, that's what you do when you see bands, and it kind of brought that aspect into it. And there still is that kind of old school, like proper DJing thing, and there's a few people out there that are doing it amazingly well, and that's great. But for me, I always went to go see someone to hear their music. So I think now I don't know if I might just be talking out of my ass, but it does feel like that EDM, you know, explosion. People would go see X DJ to hear their tracks played, and we got the good side of that blessing. I guess so. Yeah. You know? Well, man, I got to clean myself up so I can get to the city. Word. But thanks for doing this. Absolutely, man, and thanks for coming down. You're more than welcome anytime. So glad I did. Cheers, man. All right, later. So that was Andrew Baer. I will see you Canadian Londoners on Friday. I will see you Chicagoans on Saturday. And I will, I guess, talk to the rest of you next week. Later.